I want to tell you about Austin Angels and how we started working with children in the foster care system. So I go to a conference. I was invited to go to a conference called Together for Adoption. And Rebecca, who's on our staff, invited me to go to this conference to learn about the foster care system. And so we went in to a breakout session that was taught by a judge here in our city. And he began to tell a story. And the story that he told really moved me, because what he had said is that not everybody is called to foster and not everybody is called to adopt, but everyone can make a difference in a child's life here in the foster care system. And so the story that he told was about two little boys. And what he had done is he put on the screen two stories. One story of little Jimmy on the left and one story on the right was little Tommy's story. And he said that these two little boys had come in and out of his courtroom every single year for 18 years. And the story is that both boys entered at the age of 2 years old, and they both aged out of care at 18. And one little boy on the left-hand side of the screen. And so this was my first experience. I had never heard about foster care. I knew nothing about it. And he begins to put up on the screen all of the abuse that they had taken, all the neglect that they had suffered, all of the medicines that they were on. And on the left-hand side of the screen, the story of one little boy was that he was really quite smart and really excelled in academics. And the little boy made really good grades. And when he was about 8 years old, the parental rights had been terminated. And so he was open for adoption. And every year he would go to these things called picnics. And at the picnics, which is a beautiful thing for kids who are open to be adopted, would go and have the ability to meet families. And so the little boy every single year would not get chosen. And so it was heartbreaking, but the little boy at 8 years old said, I know what I can do. I can take my report card. I can take my report card and I can go up to the mommies and daddies and show that I'm worthy of being loved. And so the little boy goes up to all the parents and he says, I'm worthy. Love me. Choose me.
Was he chosen?
And he was never chosen. And at 18 years old, 2 weeks before he turned 18 years old, he had gotten adopted. And the little boy, the orphanage director, comes to him and says to him, son, you've been adopted. Pack your bags. You've been adopted and your father will be here soon to get you. And he says, what are you talking about? I've been adopted. I've wanted to be adopted my whole life. And the father comes to him as he irons his shirt and he's standing on the steps of the orphanage home. The father comes to him and he says to him, son, I've prayed for you my whole life. And I'm sorry that it has taken me this long to find you. But you will never have to worry about where you go from here. That you are my son until the day that I die. So that little boy moves in with him at 18 years old, and he puts him through school and he puts him through seminary school. And he grows up to create one of the largest foster and adoption agencies in Texas. And it's like, praise God, that's amazing. But the other little boy on the other side of the screen, who's had the same abuse and the same neglect, who was always meant to grow up to be great, he turns 18 years old, and there's no one ever in his life that has championed him. And so he turns 18 years old, and he leaves the orphanage, and he has no direction, and no one has ever played a role in his life. And so he leaves at 18 years old, and he walks and he walks and he walks until he can find the nearest freeway, and he throws himself in front of an 18-wheeler, and he kills himself. And the judge at that point said, not everybody's called to foster, and not everybody's called to adopt, but we can all play a difference and a role in a child's life. And at that conference, I felt literally the weight of the world. I felt as if God had said to me, this is your responsibility. And we need kids who have people fight for them. So there is.
Now, you do fight for them. How does
Every single day.
Angels-
Yeah, so every single day we decided from that point moving forward that we were going to make a difference in a child's life, because every child deserves
the opportunity to grow up to be great, to be who God had always intended them to be. So we created a program called the Love Box Campaign. And what that looks like is a full wraparound for every child who's in the foster care system. Our goal, we know right now there's about 3,400 kids in Central Texas who are on the CPS caseload. And our goal is to have every single child who is placed in the foster care system to have a Love Box leader. And what that looks like is that a leader would come to the child every single month, and in the box they would get things that they need and things that they want, but it's more than just about showing up with things, because we know that kids spell love T-I-M-E. And so what we ask for our volunteers is to come forward and speak truth into these kids' lives, to look at them in the eye and to say that your life matters, and we will walk alongside you. And while it sucks that you're in the foster care system, and it does, it sucks, because there's nothing worse for our children than to grow up into this system, but they can choose to rise above. All they need to be told is that your life matters, that you are worth it, and you can rise above. You can choose to make good grades. You can choose to have a good attitude. And the time that you're in the system is small compared to what you do for the rest of your life. And so we are equipping people to walk alongside our foster children, to hold their hand and say, you are not forgotten. We fight for you every day. I go to bed every night praying for our children in our city. So they can visit our website at austinangels.com, and they can fill out a form. They can become more invested in our community. And really what we believe at Austin Angels is that it takes a whole community to change. That if we're waiting for the government to change our kids and the DNA and the outcomes, it's never going to happen. What we know to be true is that relationships change children. And you know, it's an epidemic, and people need to begin to start talking about this and taking ownership within their community. We know that 80% of our prison population is made up of former foster care children. So if there's no other huge social issue that we all need to be looking at, it's that one. But then we're in Austin, the hub of homelessness, and 40% of our homeless population is made up of former foster care children. And I just believe that we can do better, and we will do better. And it is a promise to every child who's growing up in this system and every person that plays a role in CPS. I am promising them that we are fighting every day to make a difference.
You have a story of a child who's come through your program that
Yes.
sticks with you.
Yeah. So when we started the pilot program, I started sponsoring a mom who had 6 teenage boys. And in this particular home, it was the last step before a child would end up in a residential treatment center. So she got some real tough boys. And when we started the pilot program, I said, Mama Esther, listen, I don't really know what this is going to look like yet. You're going to help me to kind of work out the program. We're going to start this. We're going to create this together. And there was a little boy in her home, and 14 years old, going into the 7th grade, really wanted to go out for the football team. And so we go to him and we said, hey buddy, we hear you want to go out for the football team. And he said, I do, but I don't make good grades. I've never made a good grade in my life, and you've got to make good grades in order to make the football team. And so at this point, we had already been in this boy's life for 6 months, speaking truth into his life. And the one requirement that we have in our Love Box is that each child would get a handwritten note every single month, a letter of encouragement. And so we told this little boy, we want you to take this card and we want you to put it next on your poster board on your bed. And every morning when you wake up, we want you to read that out loud to yourself. And we want you to know that we have already prayed this before you, that you will make good grades this year, that you will make the football team. We believe you. We're going to be checking in with you. Well, Mama Esther calls me at 6 weeks progress report card time, and she says, you're not going to believe this. The boy who's never made a good grade a day in his life has come home with straight A's. And I said to myself, okay, we're launching this program because if nothing else, then we have just spoken truth into this little boy's life that you can make good grades. You just needed somebody to push you, to show you that you are valuable, that you have these choices and you can do that. And then in the same household, another little boy, also 14 years old, We do birthday parties big at Austin Angels. We want to make sure that these kids know that they are loved and that they are valued. And so one of the little boys had gone to school that day, and when he got home, he got to open up a big box, a birthday box, and in the birthday box was his favorite brownies and cookies and that sort of thing. And he called me and he said, "Miss Susan, I just wanted to tell you, I was so excited to get home from school today. I was so excited because I knew that for the first time in my life that somebody was going to celebrate my birthday." And when he hung up the phone with me, he said, "And I love you." And that was powerful for me. Because Mama Esther calls me the next day and she says to me, "That boy has been in my home for 6 years." And he has never said the words, "I love you." And so I thought, if nothing else, we are launching this program. But the cool part about all of this is that when children enter the foster care system, they have what's called the level of care. So they're basic, intermediate, advanced, specialized. And the most beautiful part was that when they got all rechecked, all 6 boys had moved down levels of care. And that's huge. And that's huge because let's say we just saved the government $200 times 6 kids. That's $1,200 in one household. And Miss Esther says to me, "Susan, I don't even care because what you're doing for me is that these boys are improving emotionally, academically. They're attaching for the first time in their life. They believe in themselves for the first time in their life. You have made it easier for me to be a foster mom. And I don't even care about the money because you're helping compensate the $1,200 I was going to be spending on things like toilet paper and paper towels and laundry soap. And your group comes and supports me every month and you're bringing me those things anyway. So I don't even care about the less money. In fact, I'd rather have your program support me." And so that's when we knew we really had to launch it. And so the message is that not everybody is called to foster, not everybody's called to adopt, but everybody can play a difference. And it has to be a whole community that comes alongside these kids.